Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Vicky Broadcast. Today I have a slightly different form of episode simply because after reading some Sirach and some Thomas Sowell, I've decided that, at least for the YouTube uploads, the best thing to do is probably to put a lot more thought into them instead of just plainly uploading whatever I broadcast and doing it all immediately live. It's probably not the best idea since I can't concisely make any arguments and I can't really go into the depth I want to be able to go into on a lot of these issues. So today I'm just going to do a very short episode on the national debt, and so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I'm just going to kind of do a little preface for anyone who doesn't really understand what the current debt situation is for the United States federal government. So the federal government, as of right now, owes about $30 trillion. This is made up of money that we owe foreign countries, money that we owe people such as bondholders, and also people such as Social Security recipients. So that's where the 30 trillion figure comes from. And of course, there's like other sources of this debt, but most of it is in fact from these three sources. If you were to count the debt and divvy it up by taxpayer, it would be about $240,000 per American taxpayer. And the current federal revenue for the federal government is about $4 trillion. So most likely it will be impossible to pay this off in any presidential term, right? As of right now, even if a president said, okay, we're going to pay this off during my 8-year term or 4-year term, even if they had an 8-year term, that still wouldn't be enough to pay it off. Even if they were to put 75% of our tax revenue into paying off the debt, they still wouldn't be able to pay it off. They can get close. Now that I'm looking at it, they probably couldn't get too close, but let me do some math on this. They could get within $6 trillion, right? Let's say after Joe Biden's term, let's say somebody else gets elected and they say, okay, I'm going to put 75% of our federal revenue into paying off the debt. If you're not even counting the interest, the compounding interest on the debt, which is just going to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and more, not more hard, but harder to pay off, then still it would be impossible for any president to pay off this particular debt. It would have to be a bipartisan effort. So good luck with that. The issue isn't that people don't understand this. The issue is that people don't want to understand this. So, for instance, a article put out by MSNBC, I think this is a while back, but it says, well, this is the title: "The Details Debt Doomsayers Don't Understand." And pretty much for the whole article, they say, don't listen to these people who care about the national debt, because you won't have to pay it off, and your children won't have to pay it off, right? That's their whole argument, is that, don't worry about it because you won't have to deal with it. The fact of the matter is, at some point, someone's going to have to pay this money, right? At some point, someone's going to have to pay this money, or someone's going to have to not receive this money. And by not receiving the money, that would mean eliminating Social Security, which a lot of people have been paying into for years and years and years and years, or eliminating pretty much all of the money that the government owes on people on bonds, which would utterly destroy the trust in the U.S. financial system. Yeah, good luck getting anyone to ever buy a bond again if you were to just all of a sudden cut all bonds, which you can't do, but it's what's gonna have to happen if this debt gets out of control. And this is not, I don't want that to happen, right? I'm not saying, oh yeah, let's cut Social Security, let's cut the bonds, let's cut our debts to foreign governments. I'm just saying we literally can't pay this off. We literally can't. In the article it says, don't worry because rich people will pay it, right? Like, oh yeah, the government will get rich people to pay it. Okay, well, rich people have really good accountants, and those accountants can usually get them out of a lot of taxes or a lot of tax codes. So it doesn't really seem like anyone could pay this off, even okay, let's say hypothetically, right? Let's say hypothetically the top 10% of earners in the United States, right? Let's take their incomes, top 10%, let's say we tax them at 50% of their income, right? Then we also taxed the entirety of the middle class at 20% of their income, and we did that for 8 years, right, for a 2-term president. Okay, and then let's say we put all of that increased tax revenue into the debt. Oh look, we're still $2 trillion off, we still couldn't pay it. At the end of the day, the thing I'm trying to get to with this particular topic, look, at the end of the day, we literally can't pay this off. So the idea that we can continue all this federal spending and all this federal borrowing and all these Social Security programs is ridiculous. It's literally impossible to pay this off because every year the compounding interest will continuously increase the amount. for anyone who doesn't understand how compounding interest works, if I were to put, let's say I put $100 into an account that had, like 5% compounding interest, right? Put it in there for 30 years, my $100 would turn into $3,150 in 30 years. And that's with 5% compounding interest. So as of right now, our national debt is going through, 0.2, 0.3 compounding interest. So the longer that we don't pay this off, the more money the government's going to take out to pay this off, right? In order to pay off the interest that we owe right now on the debt, and just to pay the debts that we currently owe on Social Security and bonds and foreign governments currently, right, our current debt payment plan, the government has to go deeper in debt by taking out more loans and more money to pay off these initial debts that are owed right now. So it's just going to keep stacking on top of each other until it gets so out of control that we couldn't even if we sold everything that this country owns, we still wouldn't be able to pay it off. Right? So at this point, it's pretty much a fact that the government is not going to be able to pay off this debt. Right? Unless, of course, there could be a bipartisan, multi-president effort to get the debt paid off, so that way we could have a solvent country again. Another thing in the article is they say that people who call the United States insolvent are lying because the United States isn't a company. With my definition of solvent and insolvent, I understand the United States is not a company, but still, even if the United States sold all its assets, it wouldn't be able to pay off all its debts. Therefore, it is insolvent. Right? But that's really all I have to say about the national debt as of right now. This is sort of just a preliminary look at the current economic plan of this administration, and pretty much every administration before it for the last, you could say 20, 30 years, is completely bogus, just because they don't seem to have any sort of fiscal plan beyond their own presidency. They don't seem to have any plan for the country, let's say, 20, 30 years from now, because at the end, this is going to come back to bite us at some point, right? At some point, this will come back to bite us, simply because at some point we will have to pay these bonds, and at some point we will have to pay the Social Security, and when we don't have the money, we have to print it, and when we print the money, it will inflate the currency, and that will pretty much destroy the savings of the entire American middle class, as well as destroy any trust in the U.S. currency. So anyway, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into the Vicky broadcast. I'm sorry for changing the format on this. I just simply think it's better to do a more organized, or at least more in-depth look at particular issues than just doing the uploading the 10-minute segments from the broadcast. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you will join me all in the next episode.